This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I mentioned last time the 39 Malachot Shabbos book, right? That Adam would love this. Okay. Right?
Yeah, you had something like that.
Yeah. It looks like it is like a children's book, right? But actually, it is pretty halachically intensive, and it goes through each of the 39 malachot: choresh, plowing; zoreya, planting; kotzer, harvesting; ma'amer, gathering, and goes through also the practical applications that go along with that. So if anyone takes a look at it, I've got a copy of it. I think it's the shul. It's mine. This is mine. All right, take a look at it afterwards, and it's something. It's a nice little reference book to have, right, and also to go through. Okay, where did we leave off, guys? What page?
83.
83. Okay. How to wash one's hands for a meal. Okay. So when do we wash our hands?
When we wake up.
Good.
After we go to the bathroom.
Okay. Okay. So when we wake up, right? What you're saying, when we wake up after we go to the bathroom, or when we wake up, number one,
Yes.
number two, we have to go to the bathroom. Okay. So after we go to the bathroom, yes, we should wash our hands. That's basic hygiene, right? And we should definitely wash our hands. Soap is recommended, right? That's all, good best practice. Halachically, a halachic hand washing, so that there are two on the list. Okay. Number one, when we wake up in the morning, we wash our hands. Okay. Ideally, one of the first things we do in the morning, person needs the bathroom, the bathroom, and then wash the hands. And that we wash. How do we do that? What's the way that we do that?
3 times on the right, 3 times on the left.
Yes, but alternating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
And then when we go to visit the grave.
Okay, good. That's also a good point. When visiting a cemetery, also upon leaving the cemetery, we also would wash our hands in that manner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But there are only 2 times that will make the blessing of Asher Kiddishanu v'mitzvotav, that you sanctified us with your mitzvot, v'tzivanu, and commanded us al nitilat yadayim, on the lifting, on the washing of the hands. The 2 times that we make that bracha is when we wash our hands in the morning. Okay? Now that blessing in the morning could also be pushed off and just incorporated into all of your morning blessings. Okay? We'll get to, right, the davening that we should be doing each morning. For men, it's a little more demanding than it is for women, right? But the al netilat yadayim is a blessing that we should make each morning with the washing of our hands. 3 reasons why we wash our hands in the morning. I'm asking you guys for 3 reasons. So Shelby was first. Okay, so there's the Kabbalistic one that sleep is considered to be 1/60th of death, right? In that when a person dies, the neshama, our spiritual self, lifts off of our physical body and goes on to the next stage. When a person sleeps, also the moda ani that we say, the thank you God and blessing, we say not blessing, but statement in the morning is thanking God for returning the neshama, the soul, to us. Right? The first thing to say. Gabrielle, are you familiar with these things or not yet?
A little bit.
Okay. And you are familiar with it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How are you so familiar with it?
My Hebrew teacher kind of taught me.
Okay.
Taught me the ropes.
Okay.
Things are a little different though, so I'm gonna relearn this.
Okay. Well, what do you mean different?
So she doesn't alternate.
So that's probably by bread. We'll come to that soon.
Okay.
That's probably by bread. Okay. Morning, we should definitely alternate. Yeah, I'm not going to give in on that one. Okay? And then we say the Moda Ani Lefanecha, we gratefully thank you, Melech Chai V'Kayam, living eternal King. Shechazarta bi nishmasi b'chemla, you have returned my soul to me with compassion. Rabba emunasecha, abundant, great is your faithfulness. Meaning, great is God, your faithfulness. Because God shows that he has faith in us, in me, in you, by the fact that he returned your soul to you in the morning. That means he's got plans for you. He's got things that he expects of you today. Okay? So that we say, so part of the soul leaves Kabbalistically, returns in the morning, and therefore, when a person has passed away, so then there is this Ruach Tuma, this spirit of impurity, whenever there was Kedusha, holiness, and that holiness leaves, there is impurity that results. That is why a woman, upon having her period, that there is a ritual impurity. Why? Because there was that incredible holiness of potential creation, of becoming, of conception and nurturing a baby inside. And the period shows that that opportunity was not met, was not fulfilled. And that is why when a woman gets her period, there is tuma, there is this impurity, right? It's not the cooties, but there was this potential kedusha, potential holiness that went unmet, right? Okay, so when a person is asleep, the same when we're dead, we're in an incapacitated state that we can't do very much. So when we're asleep, we're in a semi-incapacitated state, and therefore there is this tuma that comes in. Kabbalistically, when we wake up, it goes to our fingers, and therefore we wash our hands. And Kabbalistically, the way to remove that Ruach Ra is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's one of the 3 reasons why we wash our hands in the morning. Any ideas on the other 2? So, and the second reason is the same way that if I were to reach under my shirt now and scratch a covered part of my body, I would need to wash my hands afterwards. When we're asleep, right, our hands are moving around, right? So when we wake up in the morning, we wash our hands. My personal favorite reason is that a Kohen, the priests in the temple, before they could perform the service, they would need to wash their hands. Washing their hands is to consecrate the actions that we are about to do. Okay? So when we wake up in the morning, we, each and every one of us, we are a Kohen, entering into our Beit HaMikdash, into our temple, to do our avoda. What is our temple? Our temple, our Mishkan, is all of our interactions, the people that we encounter. Work, family, friends, situations throughout the day. Those are all considered to be, that is our Mikdash, that is our place where we serve Hashem. And therefore we remind ourselves that this is a day of service to Hashem in whatever capacity it is, work, social, family, whatever it is, and therefore we wash our hands in the morning. That is one time when we wash our hands and we make a blessing. Yes, Gabrielle.
Does that mean we need to keep one of those? I forgot the name of the.
Okay.
In the bathroom as well?
Yeah, ideally, you should have one of those. Now, those are very convenient, those Natlan washing cups, right? A Jewish idea of a cup with 2 handles. Like, it's like, what do you do with that, right? Like, with us, you have like 15 of them in the house, right? Yes, but you don't need that. As we were just in DC visiting our daughter. We stayed at a hotel nearby. So we took one of the cups, from the coffee area. I kept that in the bathroom. We filled the
Right.
cup, right? It doesn't have to have, those handles. It makes it a little bit easier, right? It's nice on Shabbos. You have a nice washing cup for the meal. We'll come to that soon. But you don't. It's not. It's not a requirement. It needs to be a complete cup.
But it does need to be something like a cup or anything. From the faucet, it doesn't count.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's what
So now we're getting technical. Now we're getting into airports. Okay. So what you want, ideally you have a cup. What you need is what's called koach gavra. It needs to be your strength that's doing it. Okay? So turning on a faucet is your koach, right? But that's only one koach, right? So you would go on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. In the airport, when you had an overnight flight, so then, right? No one knows who I am, and what do I care how strange I look, right? So I'll usually commandeer 2 sinks because they're all motion activated. Right? They think I'm some sort of like karate grandmaster doing my morning exercises, right? Whatever the case is, right? But that's getting more technical, okay? But yeah, yes. But ideally, a cup. If you can't have a cup, you want to be the one activating the faucet. That way, it's your koach. Koach means strength. Koach gavra means the strength of the person. The act of the person is doing that. Okay. So there we make a bracha on the washing of our hands. Okay, there the bracha does not need to be immediately afterwards. Okay, if one needs to use the restroom, then one is never allowed to make a bracha or for a prayer or study Torah when one needs to use the facilities. Right. So the bracha could be said if one went. What one can do is wash hands in the morning right away, use the bathroom, come out, wash your hands just in a regular manner, and then make the bracha of anatilat yadayim. And then also every time that we use the facilities, right, there's the bracha of asher yatzar to be said afterwards. Did I share with you guys a beautiful article from JAMA? I told you about that. I need if I don't know do I have everyone's email address?
I think so. Of course you didn't have mine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. If you send it to me, yeah. So I'll send you that. It is a beautiful article. JAMA is the Journal of American Medical Association, and this is an article written by a doctor who I know. I know his son very well. I had the privilege of teaching his son, and it's about Asher Yatzar. Yeah. Okay, so what one can do is wash hands in the morning, use the bathroom, wash hands, and then make the bracha of anatilas yadayim and asher yatzar. Or, like I said, one can incorporate the anatilas yadayim as part of one's morning blessings. Not by the morning. Not by the morning. Okay, you're making a good point. We'll come to that in a minute. Not by the morning, because there it's all part of the order of the morning blessings. Okay, so Orly made a good point. We'll see in a moment that when we're washing hands for a meal, right? So the other time that we wash our hands and make a blessing is when we're washing our hands for not just any meal, but what sort of a meal? A bread meal. Okay, for bread we wash our hands beforehand. Okay, and we mentioned that is one of the 3 exceptions. Remember this, guys? That typically we make the bracha and then do the mitzvah. But exceptions when we first start but not finish. Start the mitzvah, make the bracha and then finish the mitzvah. So let me hear some of those cases. Candle lighting, right? Because for women, unless you made an express condition, once you make the bracha, you've accepted Shabbos. Once you've accepted Shabbos, you can't light the candles. So you light the candles, cover your eyes so you've not yet gotten benefit from it, make the blessing, and then continue with the mitzvah which is getting benefit. So too, since washing the hands is to purify yourself, you want to make the bracha when you're purified, right? So what do? We wash our hands for the meal, right? But don't yet dry the hands, because the mitzvah is to wash and dry. So as we said before, if you're not going to do it before, you want to make sure that you do it before you finish, when you're still in the middle. Okay? When you're washing the hand with the hands, once again, it should be done right here. It's done 1, 2, 1, 2. Chabad does 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but halacha is 1, Ashkenaz, whatever you want to call it, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? The first one removes, right, washes off the impurity, but you still have that water on your hands. The second one rinses off that water which had removed the impurity. 1, 2. Different?
We were taught 3 on each side, and 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2.
No. Right? Now, when you wash your hands, you want to wash them in a manner that the whole hand gets wet. Okay? So, right, typically your hand like this, and then a little bit like that as you're pouring. And that way, the whole hand gets properly wet. Okay?
Just 2 on each hand.
1, 2, 1, 2.
You're done. You say the blessing.
And then say the blessing and then dry the hands. Okay? So 83, wash the hands, has to be done with a whole unbroken vessel without any perforation, okay, a full cup. Its upper rim must be whole without defects. It must hold at least, okay, about 5 ounces. That should not be much of an issue. Most cups hold a lot more than that. Before washing, one must be sure that one's hands have nothing sticking to them, so that nothing intervenes between the water and the hands. Same when you go to a mikvah, right, there are a lot of preparations that are done to make sure there's no chatzitza, there's nothing intervening, interfering between the water and the body by the mikvah and the hands. Women remove their rings before washing. So do men if they have rings. I don't wear a ring, but right, rings would be removed before washing. If a situation that a person never takes off their ring, right? It's funny. Sometimes, people see everyone, they take off their ring, they put it in their mouth, right? So like someone was either converting or a Baal Tshuva. So they thought you need to take a ring and put it in your mouth. So they wanted to make sure that they had a ring handy so they could do it properly, right? So it's not that the ring needs to go into the mouth, just the ring is taken off right before the washing. Okay. How to pour the water. The water must be poured on the whole hand until the wrist. It is proper to wash the right hand before the left hand. Okay? That is a Kabbalistic idea. Okay? And that is the right side represents chesed. Chesed is kindness. The left side represents din, judgment. So that's why we always lead with the right. So we want the left hand to pour onto the right hand, right? Right? And that way we have judgment subservient, so to speak, to compassion, to rachamim. Okay? A revi'ah should be poured on each hand at one time. If a revi'ah is poured on the hand each time, one does not have to care about the many laws which would otherwise have to be observed. Okay. If one has enough water, he should preferably wash twice, pouring revi'ahs on each hand each time. Okay, that's why usually the cup has a good amount in there, and it's 1, 2, 1, 2. One must take care not to touch the hand that was already washed with a hand, his or someone else's, that was not yet washed. Okay. After washing, so far clear, right?
Yeah.
After washing the hands, the blessing on Natilat Yadayim, who was commanded us concerning the washing the hands, is recited before drying one's hands. Drying one's hands is also part of the mitzvah, like we now understand And that's why you should make the bracha before you dry the hands. And that way, at least it's not fully before you started, but at least it's before you finished. One should not talk.
Drying your own hand, right?
Sorry?
Drying your own hand. Drying your own hand, but not drying, let's say, if I dry Adam's hand, it's not, is it considered mitzvah or no?
It's best for each person to dry their own hands.
Okay.
One should not talk or become busy with anything else from the time one washes one's hands until one has swallowed a piece of bread. Why? Why? Everyone knows, don't talk. Shh, no. Right? Why? What's the idea of not talking? So the idea is that we want to, if we get distracted, then our hands might touch something and might disqualify the washing that we have done. So therefore, you want to not talk or become busy with anything else, and that way we know the hands have remained. Yeah.
So if you talk, do you have to wash again?
You don't have to wash again.
As long as you don't
Correct. Right? Parents will have to say,
I was going to say, okay, I'll let that look.
and that way they'll remember not to talk next time. Right? After one has dried one's hands, one should recite the blessing of Hamotzee, have a bite of the bread as soon as possible. It is best to refrain from unnecessary breaks between the washing and reciting Hamotzee, even if one is not talking during this time, because again, the main idea is not the talking or absence of talking. The main idea is that one is not getting distracted.
So we should not be after washing and before going to touch the challah. We shouldn't be touching anything. So it's not just not talking. It's
You shouldn't touch anyone else, right? Ideally, yeah. It's not. If you touch a table, it's not a problem. You touch a napkin, it's not a problem. The only thing they say not to touch is someone else's hands who was not yet washed. Okay, so we don't need to get all bent out of shape about that. Okay, you want to be careful not to reach under your shirt and scratch or something like that. Which usually we don't do with people, at least at other people's tables. Anyway, thank you very much. Right, but yeah. Okay, cutting the challah. When we're reciting the blessing of Hamotzee, one should hold both challahs in one's hands. When mentioning Hashem's name, one lifts the challahs. Okay. Many have the custom to place one challah on top of another or saying the blessing. On Friday evening, the lower challah should be placed slightly closer to the person making the blessing than the one on top. Okay. So, Kabbalistically speaking, we make the bracha Friday night on the lower challah. Shabbos day on the upper challah. Now, making the bracha on the lower challah presents a halachic challenge. And that is, we have a general concept of ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvot. You don't pass by a mitzvah. A mitzvah comes to your hand, you do it. Right? I think I mentioned that to you guys about eating the challah, taking challah, as opposed to passing the challah. But by the wine there, you could pass it if you want to be a gentleman or a gentlewoman and pass it to others, because there's no mitzvah for you to drink the wine of the kiddush. But there is a mitzvah for you to have the challah. So we had that concept, ein ma'avir, you don't pass a mitzvah by. So therefore, we have a problem. If you're making the bracha and taking the lower challah, what's the problem? You're passing by the top challah. So therefore, he says, right, on Friday evening, the lower challah should be placed slightly closer to the person making the blessing than the one on top. And that way, since it's closer, I'm fulfilling the Kabbalistic idea of the bottom one, and at the same time, I'm not passing over in the mitzvah. Okay, one should not cut a slice of bread from the loaf before one has completed the blessing of Hamotzee. Why is that? Why should he make sure not to cut before making Hamotzee? Okay, good. So, two factors. One factor is, on Friday night and Shabbos day, ideally you're making a bracha, a blessing, on what's called Lechem Mishnah. What's Lechem Mishnah? 2 loaves, or 2 rolls, or 2 pitas, or 2 pieces of matzah, right? So you need to have idea, right? So that's the why do we have it on 2 on Shabbos? To remember what?
The my God, the thing that came from the sky.
The manna that
Manna.
fell from the heaven. On Friday there was a double portion. So to remember and commemorate that, we have the 2 loaves of bread. So it should be 2 whole rolls or loaves, whatever it is. So therefore you don't want to cut before you make the bracha. During the week, there is no insistence on having there you have a sandwich, you make hamotzee, and you eat your sandwich. It's slices of bread. That's not an issue at all. However, it is preferred to make a blessing on something that is whole as opposed to something that is broken. Okay, so if I am during the week, I don't need to have. I certainly don't need 2, but right, there's no reason to have 2 at all during the week. But I don't need to have 1 whole roll. Right? If I'm having slices of bread and I make hamotzee, I make a hamotzee on a slice of bread, no problem at all. If I do have a whole roll that I'll be eating during that meal, then ideally make the bracha and then slice it because it is more chashuv, it is more distinguished when it is whole. Okay? But Friday night and Shabbos day, there's that added factor that you want it to be lechem mishnah. 2 loaves or 2 rolls. And therefore, one should not cut a slice of bread from the loaf before completing the blessing of Hamotzee.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm thinking of this right. Hamotzee, it's like an all-encompassing blessing, right? So you don't need to say ha'etz or... Correct. Once you made the bracha of Hamotzee, that covers just about everything in the meal, right? One of the next things we'll go through will be the laws of brachos, and it gets a little bit more, but certainly you can rely on that. The one exception is if you're having wine during the meal, right? If you're having wine during the meal and you didn't have kiddush before, and let's say it's during the week, a weekday meal, and you're having some wine during the meal, then you would make bar priya gefen on the wine. But besides that, all of the meal and all of the drinks are all covered by hamotzee. Why is that?
Because like the bread's the most important part of the meal.
Okay, good, Eva. So the same idea that if I'm having a cracker with cream cheese, what bracha do I make on my cracker with cream cheese? No, it's not bread. Mizonot. So is that what you said? I thought.
No.
Oh, yeah. So we make mizonot on the cracker. But how about making shahakol on the cream cheese?
Doesn't it depend, like, what's the bigger, like, what's the more prominent?
Good. So we have a primary and a secondary. We make the blessing on the primary, and that exempts the secondary. You have a bowl of cereal, okay? And you have Rice Krispies. What bracha are you making on rice? Mizonot. So you make mizonot on that. How about the milk? No, the milk is secondary. The cereal is primary. You make a bracha on the primary, and that exempts the secondary. Even if you have some milk left over, when there's no cereal left, and you're going to drink that milk, right now I'm drinking just the milk. Even so, you don't make a bracha on the milk. That was already exempted. It's all secondary to the cereal. When it comes to bread, everything is secondary to the bread. So everything at the meal is like the cream cheese is like the cream cheese to the cracker. I remember our SATs, right? The food at the meal to the bread is the same as the cream cheese to the cracker. Okay, that's why you are correct, right, Trishi? That we don't make a bracha on and a motzi take care of everything. Right? We'll get more detailed when we get to the laws of brachos a little later on. Okay. It is the custom to make a mark on the loaf with a knife at the place where one will cut it after reciting the blessing. Okay. That's certainly an idea that's brought down in halacha, right? But actually, at least in my opinion, that ends up being counterproductive, because the reason to do that is that when the loaves were not baked evenly, like our loaves are baked, either the loaves that we buy in the from the bakery or Wholesome Choice, wherever we get our kosher challahs, those are mass produced and they're very evenly baked. And our convection ovens also do a very even baking. So when it's not an even baking, so then you want the bracha to be made at the top, the highest point, which gets cooked, baked the best. Right? So you want to make a little mark over there so that after you make the bracha, you can get right to that point. You can find that mark and make and start right over there. However, nowadays everything is very evenly baked. So you can end up wasting more time trying to find your mark than saving time by, oh, now I know where to start. Right? So, well, anyhow, Natalie makes a pull apart challah. So therefore, there's no cutting to be done. It just kind of breaks apart, right? But yeah, that's a custom. But in many ways, that custom, in many cases, will be counterproductive. Okay, exempting the listeners through the blessing of Hamotzee that we mentioned before. When a group is eating a Shabbos meal together, one person may recite Hamotzee aloud to exempt the others. He must have in mind to exempt them. They must answer Amen after the blessing, having in mind to be exempted through his blessing. Okay? So whenever one person is doing a mitzvah on behalf or brach on behalf of others, that person needs to have it in mind, and all the listeners need to have it in mind.
Can I ask? Bracha is meaning prayer.
Bracha is a blessing.
Blessing. And mitzvah is doing a good deed.
Mitzvah is a commandment.
Oh, okay.
Mitzvah is commandment. Bracha is the blessing. Okay, as was mentioned above, many have the custom for one person to exempt the others because of the principle of Barov Am Hadrat Melech. A king is more glorified when we have a group doing it. Okay? Now, on a Friday night meal at someone's house, you should not make your own Hamotzee before you eat your challah. Why is that? Why almost must you be Yotzei along with his blessing, as opposed to getting your piece and making your blessing? That's the key. As opposed to getting your piece and making the blessing. Help me out, Orly. It's not whole. And on Friday night, the blessing needs to be made on 2 whole rolls, loaves, etc. Right? So therefore, the only way for you to have that is if you're Yotzei, if you're exempted by the person making the blessing. If you're making your own blessing, then you're not making a blessing on the 2 loaves, you're making a blessing on the piece that's in front of you, and you're not fulfilling your Lechem Mishnah. So on Friday night, important not to make your own blessing, right? The one who cuts the bread should give each of those present at least a kazayas of challah, an olive size, a piece, a nice piece of challah. All those present may not taste the Shabbos challah until the one who recites the blessing tastes it, unless each one of them has their own 2 challahs. Okay, so you need to wait until now the astute balabayit will make sure to eat some and then pass it around, and that way we don't have the issue of everyone having to wait. Has the person eaten yet or not? The person eats a little bit and then passes that around. Yeah.
And this is just, I guess, a hypothetical. Down here it says if the person has their own 2 challahs, if somebody has their own 2, for whatever reason, they're at a Shabbos dinner and they brought their own 2 challahs because they're special. They have special needs or whatever, and they have their own 2 challahs here. I know that the bracha would, well, I don't know. Would the bracha that the person is saying then extend to those 2?
As long as he has them in mind and they have it in mind, it will count for them. And in that case, they don't need to wait for him to eat because they have their own 2 challahs. right? It is very common if you're going to if we have a Friday night meal here in the shul, so there everyone will have we'll have lechem mishnah, two rolls out available for everyone to partake of, and everyone will make their own hamotzee. Or like at a kiddush over here, where we have the thing of challahs. You pick up one roll, hold it next to the other roll, make hamotzee, and then eat your roll, and that way you made the bracha on lechem mishnah.
Is Hamotzee is the name of the prayer?
Yes, the bread blessing is
Called
Hamotzee
Hamotzee.
lechem min haaretz, the one who brought out the bread from the land. Now, why do we make the blessing that God brought the bread out from the land? He didn't really bring bread out from the land. Right? He brought out the wheat from the land. Right? He didn't bring the bread out from the land.
I'm sorry. The one who's given the bread,
Mm-hmm.
does he have to give others, like to the oldest person first, or the kids first? Or
No.
doesn't matter.
He can doesn't matter. He can pass it around as they see fit. Yeah. But why is the bracha Hamotzee? Blessed are you, God, Master of the universe, that brought the bread out from the land.
Because the bread wouldn't exist without the wheat.
Okay.
I think it's in a way it's kind of it's acknowledging that he gave us the wheat, also that he gave us the know-how on how to make that wheat into something else,
and the know-how, the ability, the strength, the means, right? It's that we recognize that that God is the one who really enables us to follow through with everything that we do. Yeah. Okay. Shabbos meal 88, a mitzvah to honor Shabbos with fish, meat, wine, and other foods and drinks that a person enjoys. A key, that a person enjoys. As it says, call the Shabbos, the karata l'Shabbat oneg. Call the Shabbos a delight. But if I don't, I'm not, I can have a little bit of wine, but I'm not a big fan of wine, right? So I don't need to cause myself anguish by having wine, or a person doesn't want meat. You don't cause yourself anguish by having meat, right? Or you don't want fish, right? Whatever the case is, chicken, what, right? You want to have food that you enjoy. You want to honor the Shabbat with your definition of fine food. Okay, right? Better than a weekday meal. Okay? At least the kazayit of challah should be eaten during the Shabbos meal. Okay. The Shabbos meal make a major contribution towards molding the family, strengthening spiritual ties, imbuing the children with exalted values. The family sings Zemirot, Shabbos hymns, which are generally found in the Siddur and special booklets, other Jewish songs. They discuss ideas from the weekly Torah portion and other topics that pertain to Torah study, halacha, Jewish law, Jewish ethical teachings. Shabbos meals are a potential source of spiritual light for the whole week. Yeah, Shabbos meals are meant to be this a bright light in the week. Okay, Shabbat Zemirot, very good. We have lots of Zemirot that were composed by other Kabbalists. Okay, that talk about the holiness of Shabbat, right? Our belief in God, our belief in redemption. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are the Shabbat Zemirot that we have. Okay. I'm sorry?
The
Zemiros.
Is there someplace you can go to find like how they sound? Not so you can learn them? Or
What's Zemiros mean?
Zemiros means songs.
Songs?
Yes, Shabbos songs. There are many different tunes for many of the different Zemirot.
they're not all the same, all different.
Yeah. Let's see if I once did make a recording of some of the classics, right?
if you guys,
That would be nice. Yeah, but how do you know which one?
Yeah.
Is like the more traditional. Yeah. Just so I think, and I'm pretty sure you're thinking the same thing. So like when you are over someone's house and you're singing, like you're not gonna bust out singing the wrong tune.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not it.
Especially
I'm
around
drunk.
the blessing after meals. I feel like it's
there
just-
is, if you can go onto YouTube and listen to it, there is, I'll find it. It's heavenly. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'll get the link and I'll post it.
So I brought Adam with me, so I'm just checking up on him.
Sure.
Because his dad went to business meeting.
Uh-huh. Ka Echso from Carlin.
Did you go during the camp time or not? Today? Did you see Adam?
I'm in my office, but I did see him outside.
Yes, but he's on the something very important. And then we had to talk to him about it last night because we don't want to get wrong information. And he started crying. But, talking about it again and again, we're like, oh, okay, this is how the baby comes from. This is a group that this.
This is an impossible one to sing. Anyhow, this one I can't sing. It's too complicated for me, but I love it. Okay, but there are the classics, and I will can't record on a Friday night, but I'll try to find the time to to go through it. Okay, so Shabbos Miros are special Shabbos songs, and in the benchers, are you familiar what a bencher is? Natalie, you know what the bencher is? That's the little the after meal blessing book.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have that.
Yeah. So that's where you'll have the Zemiros. Okay. Zimun, we don't need to go on. That's page 90. Okay. Birkat Hamazon 91. That is the grace after meals. Okay. So whenever we eat anything, even the smallest amount, we need to make a bracha beforehand, right? As Trishi said, if it's a meal, the bracha of Hamotzee that we make on the bread, that covers the whole meal. But if I'm going to have, a single chocolate chip, right? One raisin, right? A sip of water, right? You need to make a bracha beforehand. There's also an after blessing that we make on our food, and that will depend on what was the food that we had. If it's a bread meal, then we have the full Birkat HaMazon, page 91, right? Grace after meals, comprised of 4 blessings. The first one, Birkas Hazan, the one who gives sustenance. Birkas Haaretz, the blessing of the land, right? For giving us the land of Israel. Birkat Bonei Yerushalayim, the blessing of building of Jerusalem. And lastly, Birkas HaTova Meitiv, thanking God for the good and the continuous good that he gives us. That is the structure of Birkat HaMazon, of the blessing that we say after a bread meal. There are other after blessings if one had a significant amount of food that one will make, and that will depend if it is grain products or fruits that the land of Israel is praised by. What are those fruits the land of Israel is praised by? Figs is one. Olives, good. Pomegranates, grapes, and dates.
Okay, those are the 5, and then also barley and wheat mentioned. Okay, so for all of those, we make that's called the bracha me'ein shalosh. We'll come to that when we get to our blessings and our davening and our blessings. Yeah, and that is a bracha that will have a little bit of the first one, of hazan, of sustenance, a little bit of the second one, Bikar Ta'aretz, about the land, a little bit of the third one, about the building of Jerusalem. That's why it's called the bracha me'ein shalosh, the bracha that's got a little bit of the shalosh of the 3. Okay? And on other things, like just anything else besides that, it could be a whole meal. Sometimes I was visiting my son. He took me out to this wonderful steakhouse. We had this amazing meal. It was steak and potatoes and vegetables. I felt guilty after that big meal. I just made the smallest after blessing. It's called the Bari Nefashot. It's just like 2-3 lines, It's such a meal. I was like, that's all I can say. But right, the bracha that we make depends on the nature of the food that we're eating. It wasn't bread, and it wasn't grain products, and it wasn't those fruits of the land of Israel. Then it goes down to the Bari Nefashot. Gonna take a look, right here in the Sidur.
I have to memorize this one.
Yeah.
That one and
Yeah.
Asher Yatzar.
That and Asher Yatzar. That is correct. Yeah. So Brain Nefashot here in the Sidur. Yeah. So the benching itself, the Bikar Mazon after a bread meal, right? So that starts over here, continues over here. On Chanukah and Purim we add that, continues over there. On Shabbos we add that, continues over there, over there, over there, and there to there. Okay? After just the grain meals or the right, so then we just say
Like she was saying, she has to memorize
the Bari Nefashos, Asher Yatzar.
The,
Promise.
the after
After the bath.
and the candle lighting and
Oh, here. This is the after the grains, just this page, one page. And this is the Bari Nefashot.
I can do it.
You got that, Trishi.
You got it.
We have full confidence in you. Okay? Yeah. Look, and the best way to memorize these is by saying them consistently.
Yeah.
Right? A person uses the bathroom, I don't know, 3-4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, right, we get it done. Why are we making a blessing after the bathroom? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's something that should not be taken for granted.
Right.
Not be taken for granted. Right? You'll speak to your doctor husband about the concentration gradient that goes on in order for a person to be able to eliminate wastes, and it's actually mind blowing. Okay, good. The laws of Ritzay. Okay, we're not going to get into all of that detail. Suffice to say that part I mentioned before, part of Birkat HaMazon of the grace after meals, we have that special paragraph that we add on Shabbat called Ritzay. Okay.
That's the part. That's it. I couldn't find. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that is, yeah. Are you guys familiar, comfortable with all the benching? Yeah.
Okay.
And you mean like by heart?
Not talking about heart, but comfortable with working your way through.
Oh,
Okay. I'll tell you, for a while during Sudash Lishit here at the shul, Shalashut is the third meal at the shul, so I would make a point of doing the whole benching out loud. word for word, because we had a lot of people who were in the process of converting who were there. I wanted them to get familiar with that. And a personal highlight for me was the last Shabbos, the Hart family. You guys knew the Hart family? Yeah, so the Hart family, so they moved into my house. They had a little overlap between their lease ending and moving to Israel. But Natalie and I ate by them Friday night, one of the last Friday night meals, and the whole family benched and out loud afterwards, and they did it exactly, to the note of the way that we would do it at Shalosh Shudas. And I was like, that's why I did that.
Yeah.
It was a very special feeling.
And you will record that one for us.
I can. I can record the benching.
It's
Yeah.
very special to be here though. Just not to try to bring you all in, but
Please do. Please do.
Sudas Shlishi it's a very special time to come. It's not the entire tent is not full like that Kiddush. It's a much smaller, more intimate group.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I've learned more of. I think that is the area where I've been able to kind of sing through
The benching.
and
Yeah.
And even some of the Zimmers, I'm getting used to the tune now and being able to sing along, and it just it's very meaningful to be able to be in community.
It's very and there are special third meal. Sudash Shlishi means the third meal. There's special third meal Zemirot and those are for the third meal. You don't sing them at the other meals. Those are for the third meal, and they often and they talk about a very close intimacy that we're meant to feel with Hashem, and talking about the redemption. Yeah, that's what it's about. And then we have a nice Havdalah also afterwards. Yeah. So we can't put in a plug. Everyone's more than welcome to come. Okay, we're going to be skipping through here the davening, right, which is chapter 6, Shacharit and Musaf prayers. Shacharit comes from the word shachar, which means the morning. Musaf comes from the word added. Okay? And every day we have Shacharit, we have the morning prayers. On the days when there is added sacrifices that would be brought in the temple, those are special days, Shabbat, holidays, Rosh Chodesh, the new moon. So on those days when there would be additional sacrifices brought in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple, so then we have Musaf, we have that added prayer. So every Shabbat, of course, we have Shacharit that starts 9 o'clock, Torah reading, because Kohanim, page 100, 101, taking out the Torah scroll, okay, right, Aliyot, 7 Aliyot, the reading of the Torah, Maftir, Haftorah, returning, right, obligation, okay, Musaf, good, okay. So that Shabbat 9 o'clock, you'll see what we do, and you'll become more and more familiar with that. Okay, and again, for women, a lot of these the davening obligations are toned down quite a bit. Okay, Shabbos Day Kiddush. Okay, all right, Shabbos Day Kiddush 117. I'd like to get to. I want to start the. Boy. I just saw the time Malachas. Okay, we'll get there. Okay. On Shabbos Day, right, we have a Shabbos Day Kiddush. We do that here. Those are with us, we do that here in the tent. I make the Kiddush for a Priya Geffen. Okay. And I have everyone in mind. Hello, Adam. How you doing?
Can I go get a soda?
What?
Where's the soda?
I mean, at the thing.
In the kitchen, he says.
Not in the kitchen, in the other room.
In the tent? If there's a can of soda in the fridge and your mom says it's okay,
Yeah. Not the Coke, okay?
it's okay with me.
Thank you.
Okay.
What page are you on?
Now 117, 118. Okay, so we skipped all of the davening parts. Okay. Okay, one is not supposed to eat or drink anything before Kiddush. Okay? Well, it's okay. Well, let me explain. Once I'm able to have the meal, that's when I need to hear Kiddush before I have the meal. I can't have the meal until I've davened. Okay? Typically, we don't eat before davening. We want to feed the soul before we feed the body. But on a Shabbos morning where we're not going to finish davening, the rabbi talks so long, we're not going to finish davening till about noontime, right? So then a person could, and if you'll feel weak, I would even say should, eat something before davening. You won't need to do Kiddush at that point because Kiddush is before the meal, and you can't have a meal before davening. So therefore you don't need to have Kiddush before davening. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So therefore, before you come to shul, it's nothing. It's perfectly fine to have a coffee, have a piece of cake, have a banana, whatever it is a person might like to have in the morning. That's perfectly fine before davening. Once we've davened shacharis, that's already now a time where a person could have the meal. So if a person's going to break, let's say on certain days, let's say on Simchas Torah, we break between Shacharis and Torah reading, and we're not going to have the meal for a long time, so then we'll make Kiddush at that point and eat something at that point, okay? But, like I said, so you're eating before you come to shul is perfectly fine on Shabbos.
And like having a glass of water when I get here.
Having a glass of water when you get here, if you haven't yet davened, is fine. Once you've finished davening shacharit, so then you should not. Okay? Okay. So you can't eat until you hear Kiddush, right? So that's why everyone waits until after Kiddush before they eat. Okay? Now, this gets a little bit complicated, but let me just mention it. Let's say I'm going home for the meal, right? So maybe I'll hear Kiddush, and maybe I'll just have, I don't know, I'll just have a little bit of fruit. Or I'll just have, just a little something. That's a problem. Because as I mentioned last time when we discussed about Kiddush, the standing and sitting for Kiddush, remember? A reason to sit for Kiddush is because the Kiddush needs to be in the Makom Su'udah, where you're having your meal. So you want to sit, there are those who sit in order to, right, really establish my place here for the meal. So Shabbos day also, the Kiddush needs to be where you're having the meal. A meal does not need to be a bread meal. It could be having enough mizonot, enough cake or crackers in order to make an after blessing. Or it could also work if you're having enough wine or grape juice to make an after blessing. But less than that is a problem because it's not Kiddush in the place of the Su'udah. It's not Kiddush in the place of the Su'udah, then you have the Su'udah meaning the meal, then you haven't fulfilled your mitzvah of Kiddush. In which case, if you haven't been Yotzei Kiddush, then you can't eat. Right? So you have to make sure you eat a good amount. If you're having the meal there, it's easy. Right? We have a meal here every Shabbos afternoon. Join us for the meal, and then that's easy, that's good. But if you're not going to be joining us for the meal, so then either don't eat at the Kiddush or eat enough that it's considered a makom suda in the place of the meal.
So,
Go ahead.
sure?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Rabbi's doing Kiddush. I just want to hear him do Kiddush, but I'm going to eat at home.
That's
So
okay.
I hear, but I eat at home.
So you'll need to make Kiddush when you get home. Right?
It's okay to do it twice?
Yes. Well, if you ate over here, so then you don't need to make Kiddush again when you get home. But if you didn't eat over here, then you have not heard Kiddush b'makom su'uda in the place of your meal. So then you will need to make Kiddush when you get home.
leave here, but in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to move and go home. Can I bench at home? Or would I have to bench in the place where I live?
If you washed intending to start the meal here and continue it at home, then you can do that and bench over there, if that was your intent. Okay? Good. Okay? Good. Okay. Shabbos Mincha. Motzei Shabbos. Yes.
Really missed this.
I'm sorry?
It might be a dumb question. I don't think I've
We don't
Okay.
consider any questions to be dumb.
I don't think I've seen, maybe I've just missed it, people washing at Kiddush lunch. Are people doing that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like going into the bathroom and doing
Not the bathroom. We have a washing station that's set up
right there.
right outside by the
So
park.
after you say Kiddush.
After my Kiddush, right? You can get food first, right, and then wash. But you should, right? You're staying for the meal. You should go outside there, or so if it's raining, we have it inside set up. We always have a washing station set up, right, with washing cups and towels, and then bread, and then salt, and you'll make Hamotzee.
2 on each hand.
1, 2, 1, 2, right? Make your bracha, dry your hands, pick up one of the rolls, hold it over one of the other ones, make the bracha Hamotzee, dip in the salt, and you are gold. Okay? Good. Okay, let's go. Okay. Yeah, let's stop now. It's getting late. Okay. Next, just remind me, we'll start with Havdalah. We'll start with 127, Saturday evening. Okay. And then that won't take us that long. And then off we go into our 39 malachot, which is the meat of the matter over here. Okay?
I'm sorry, did you say Saturday evening?
Yeah, Motzei Shabbat, Saturday evening.
I thought you meant the next meeting.
No. Tuesday
Sorry.
night. Tuesday night.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right.
Very good, everybody.
I have another question, Rabbi.
Yes.
Does Wholesome Choice have kosher meat?
Wholesome Choice often has kosher chicken.
Okay.
Okay? Raw, Empire Chicken they'll often have. Trader Joe's often has, usually has kosher chicken. OC Kosher.
Always order from Western Kosher, but Paz forgot to put the order in today, so now I'm like, where?
Oh yeah. So either Trader Joe's. Now they won't have. They usually don't have raw kosher meat. They will have kosher deli.
Which one? Trader Joe's or Wholesome Choice? Or both?
Wholesome Choice has a kosher fridge
I've seen that.
at the back of one of their
I just
aisles.
know if they have raw stuff too.
I'm sorry.
They don't have like raw stuff. Like
I
ground
don't
beef
think so.
or, like,
I don't think so. They do have the Impossible, burger stuff, which is,
I don't think it's gluten free
That
though.
I
That's
don't know.
my problem.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I'll figure it out. Where do you get your kosher meat?
Well, we don't eat all that much meat.
Oh, right.
When we do have meat, we get it either. We usually get it OC Kosher. Yeah.
I should just go there.
Yeah, kosher, that would be the best place for you to go. Like if you're looking for meat.
Like for a whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
We
do
also,
that.
Western Kosher from LA, they deliver.
That's what I'm
food
doing.
on
We do that
Tuesday.
every week, but
Yeah,
you forgot to put in the
Tuesday.
order.
But if you need something like a place you could just run into.
Okay, I'll go there
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you so much.
Very good. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.